All right, folks, we now have a quorum, so we will call this meeting of the House Education Committee to order, and I will call on Representative Hill to open us in prayer.
Let us pray. Excuse me. Our dear kind Heavenly Father, as we come to you, we thank you, Lord, for your blessings on us. We thank you for allowing us to live in such a great country, a great state, and for the people that we represent. We ask your leadership and your guidance, and that we'll be, Lord, that would be worthy of what you would have us to do. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Representative. Up first, members of the committee, we're going to hear Senate Bill 88. Senator, if you'll join us at the podium, and if you don't mind, if you can help confirm the LC number we're working on for the committee, please.
Absolutely. Senate Bill 88, LC 490351-EC. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to come present this bill to you today. As the husband of a third-generation public school teacher, family member of a veteran, and advocate for education in rural Georgia, I'm honored to bring this piece of legislation forward on behalf of Governor Kemp. Since day one, the governor's been a champion for education and specifically our teachers. His Teacher Pipeline initiative focuses on recruiting, preparing, mentoring, and retaining Georgia's talented teachers. This bill highlights the commitment we all have to improve the lives of our teachers and preserve the teaching profession. Senate Bill 86 has 6 parts that all focus on recruiting, preparing, mentoring, and retaining Georgia's teachers. First, this bill allows the Georgia Teacher of the Year to serve as an advisor ex officio to the State Board of Education. Teachers' voices should be part of the decision-making process at the state level, and it is important to link the State Board of Education directly to Georgia's classrooms and teachers. Next, Senate Bill 88 supports a pathway for armed force veterans to become alternatively certified teachers. In Georgia, we have a surplus of veterans due to our military bases, and many veterans leave the service looking for jobs or ways to contribute to society. This legislation will support and enhance the existing pathway for veterans who meet minimum degree and testing requirements to become certified teachers in Georgia. Third, this bill ensures utilization of excess observational resources to new teachers or teachers who need support. Teachers who have proven excellence in the classroom do not require as many observations as new teachers who receive needs development or ineffective. This legislation ensures observational supports are rerouted to coach and mentor new teachers or teachers who need support. Fourth, this bill also improves differentiated instruction for future teachers. After reviewing surveys from new teachers and their employers, we see a gap in teacher preparedness and differentiated instruction for at-risk students, English language learners, students with disabilities, and gifted students. It is pivotal that new teachers heading to the classroom are equipped with strategies to reach all students at varying instructional levels. Part 5 of the bill improves reading instruction for future teachers. Future teachers must learn the skills and strategies needed to be able to teach the fundamental skills of reading. This includes phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, vocabulary, reading comprehension, and any other essential instruction and curriculum concepts deemed necessary for reading instruction in the classroom. And finally, this bill also enhances HBCU's role in teacher preparation programs. Our historical Black colleges and universities play a significant role in teacher preparation. This legislation will ensure that the Georgia Professional Standards Commission will work with HBCUs to lead the charge to create innovative ways to get more minority teachers in our classrooms. This 6-part bill will improve the lives of our students, teachers, and administrators. And I'd just like to report that in the Senate, this bill enjoyed bipartisan support. We had like 42 co-sponsors, and it passed unanimously out of the Senate. And so thank you all, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, for allowing me to present it. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Chairman Cantrell.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. Has there been any opposition from anybody for this bill?
No, sir.
Great. Awesome. Love the bill.
Thank you.
Chairman Nix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I think there's some great parts in this bill. Help me just a little bit now with the Teacher of the Year as an ex officio member of the board. It says to serve as an advisor ex officio at a meeting will that be with one meeting for that person to come and present, or will they be part of that board the entire time?
No, they'll be a part of that board. The Teacher of the Year takes a sabbatical year to travel the state and promote the profession, and serves as an ambassador for education, traveling the state, speaking to various educators and community groups. So they will be a part of the ex officio member.
Can it follow up, please? That's the only part of this bill that gives me any pause. We had a Teacher of the Year a couple of years ago that was extremely hostile to the legislature. I heard that person speak several times, and I was terribly offended by his take on what we did that he really didn't understand in terms of funding and everything. So I have a little bit of heartburn on that. 99% of the time it's good, but when you get one that wants to, that his whole purpose is to tear down the legislature, that's just not a good thing to happen. And I would like for y'all to be aware of that, if you would, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Nix. Who is number 14? Chairman Chokus? 13? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've got a similar question to Chairman Nix. I served on the state school board for 2 years. And part of our
Chairman Chokus, hold on one second. We got to get that microphone hot, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that? Still not.
Try.
Try 11.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman. Oh,
There
good.
we go.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, I served on the school board for 2 years, and a big part of our responsibility was in executive session where we discussed employment issues. And I'm somewhat concerned that if we have an active teacher in that discussion, that there would maybe a conflict of interest. And how is that going to be addressed in this legislation?
Well, let me just say this, the teacher serves as an advisor role and serves at the pleasure of the board, and the teacher will not be able to vote, but he or she will be able to give input before the vote.
Would follow up. So when the board goes into executive session to discuss legal issues, the teacher would be.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when the board goes into executive session to discuss legal issues, the Teacher of the Year will be a part of that process?
No.
Yeah.
Would you speak to that, Miranda?
Thank you so much for the question. The code sections referenced in the bill do not reference executive session. 20-2-5 is the oath of the members in board meetings. 20-2-5.1 is annual public hearings in congressional districts for each state board of education member. And code section 45-721 is expense and allowance and travel cost reimbursement. So they will not be allowed to join those executive session meetings.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was a big concern of mine.
Thank you, Chairman Chokus. Vice Chairman Irwin, is that you on 14 or Representative Maynor?
It's me.
Okay, I can't tell from here. Go ahead, Representative Maynor.
Thank you, Chairman. This is in regards to lines 48 through 54 or so, and it talks about minimum established standards. So one question is, where are the minimum standards located and what are they? And then when you go further, it says, if they're teaching in a career of technical or agriculture field, they do not have to meet the minimum standards. So that is a concern. One, I don't know what the minimum standards are. And then two, you don't have to have any standards basically for those two careers. And those are two such important careers. I would think I understand that we need more teachers in those fields, but we want quality people in those fields as well.
No, I understand. Miranda, come here and speak to this, please. Miranda is the governor's advisor on education, and she can speak to this better than I
I
can.
was going to say, Miranda, just for what it's worth, for anyone who may not know you, if you'll introduce yourself and your
Yeah.
role, please.
I'm Miranda Williams. I'm Governor Kemp's pre-K through 12th grade education policy advisor, as well as juvenile justice and community affairs. So a lot of 18 and under policy areas. So the minimum requirements for the veteran to become a certified teacher, 1, they had to be a veteran, 2, they would have to hold a bachelor's degree, and 3, they would have to obtain a passing score on the GACE ethics exam. When talking about the CTAE field, a lot of times, because these are trade type professions, they may not have a bachelor's degree, but they still may be an expertise in the welding or any kind of career, technical, or agriculture education course. Now, once they have those minimum requirements, they have to be offered employment by a local school system that meets those 3 requirements above, and then they'll be eligible for a 3-year military support provisional certificate. And then during those 3 years, they go through extensive training, so they will have high quality professional development. During their first year, they'll enroll in a non-traditional ed prep program and receive priority enrollment. And then in the first year as well, they'll obtain a passing score on the GACE content assessment. And then during the second year, they have to have a passing score on the GACE program admission assessment. And then they have to assume functions as the teacher while completing the program, demonstrate satisfactory progress towards full certification, and successfully complete a non-traditional educator prep program. So they go through extensive training in pedagogy, and then they'll also have knowledge and content as well.
Thank you. I do have just one quick follow-up to that. Can they, once they go through all of this training, then would they be able to, based on the school's needs, go to another field?
So would they be able to trade their field out?
Right.
So having a bachelor's degree, they could go to a different field. The bill doesn't specify that, but really what the professional development all speaks to the pedagogy. So they could switch fields, but they would know how to teach, they would know how to teach a type of curriculum, if that's helpful.
Thank you. Chairman Cantrell.
Miranda, this is for you.
Oh, sorry.
I assume that anyone in this program, they still have to be interviewed and
They have to be hired
by the, okay.
Right.
Enough
Yes, sir.
said. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, that appears to be all the questions from the committee. Senator, any other comments or remarks?
No, sir. I just think this is good bipartisan legislation. Like I said, it enjoyed a lot of bipartisan support in the Senate and passed unanimously. So I would appreciate your favorable consideration.
Thank you very much. I'll recognize Chairman Cantrell for a motion.
I move do pass.
We have a motion do pass and a second on Senate Bill 88 LC 490351 EC. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And Senator, Senator Goodman, you did say that Floor Leader LaGricchia will be carrying this in the House, correct? Thank you very much. All right, members of the committee, up next, Senate Bill 220. Chairman Payne, if you will join us at the podium, please, sir. And if you don't mind starting out, just confirm the LC that we're all working on.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm working off LC 490463S.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm bringing you today Senate Bill 220. This is otherwise known as the Georgia Civics Renewal Act. This just simply creates a Georgia Commission on Civics Education and outlines the purpose of that commission. That commission shall promote and enhance the education of students on the importance of civics involvement in a constitutional republic, the study of state and local government among the state's citizenry, the importance of civic engagement and public service, the communication of collaboration among organizations in the state that conduct civics education. It's comprised of 15 members that are all appointments of the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch of our state government, as well as public and private partnerships to make sure that we're putting forth the best civics education we can in Georgia. I think every one of us that are elected office understand that many times we get contacted by people thinking that, you know, we're serving in Washington, D.C. and they don't comprehend that a state representative is not the same as a congressman, nor is a state senator the same as a U.S. senator. And so it's just to make sure that kind of scares me, to consider the fact that, you know, we are lacking that degree in our state and our nation. And just, so this is just with hope to, as our founders of this nation understood, that, you know, an educated populace is the populace to conserve and within self-government the best. And that's what the purpose of this bill is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think members of the committee, you'll remember this very, very, very similar bill that we've passed out of this committee by Representative Gamble. I appreciate you being here as well, Representative. Chairman Cantrell.
At the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer the same amendment that I offered on the House version of this bill.
Stand by one. Vice Chairman Irwin. Or no, that's again, sorry, Representative Maynor.
Yes, I just wanted to say on the record that I love the bill. I actually introduced HR 202. The closest school to the Capitol is Wesley International Academy. And I introduced the resolution really for the purpose of civic engagement, because it is such an important ideal that children need to be encompassed in. So I appreciate the bill.
Well, thank you. I agree with your sentiment.
We will turn online. Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do support the idea of civic education for our school children too, but one concern that I do have is there is a very partisan divide on, you know, viewpoints pertaining to the most recent elections. So with this specific commission, would the suggestions or curriculum still have to go through a vetting process with the Board of Education or with our local school boards?
Yes, if you look on the page on line 66, it says the head of social studies program of the Department of Education shall report annually to the commission. So that we'll be working with the school system to make sure that this is being employed in a proper manner.
If I may follow up, so the commission would presumably make recommendations to the Department of Education, and then the Department of Education would have the authority to decide which recommendations to take and which ones to implement. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Nguyen. Number 4, Representative Paris, is that you?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Yes, just to follow up with what Representative Wynn was saying. So the curriculum, how is this going to be drafted, or who's going to do that?
That will be working through the commission as appointed, and then also the Department of Education.
So
As to what that final curriculum looks like, but it's basically just making sure that I don't think that we're trying to do anything politically here. I just think it's literally we're understanding that our society has become woefully with a lack of understanding of what the roles of each branch of government, what local governments can do versus what state governments can do versus what our national and federal government can do. And it's just making sure that we're addressing that as a knowledge base for these kids. It's not, I'm sure that's my intent with this.
absolutely, just to follow up. Unfortunately, we are in a very divisive political space, and that's my concern with the makeup of the board and the curriculum and how it's going to go and how it's going to roll out. So, but thank you for your efforts. We certainly do need some civics taught to
Yes.
these people that
Well,
do not
that's
understand.
exactly why we made sure that we had representatives from the majority caucus and the minority caucus from both the Senate and the House will be members of this commission.
Thank you.
Seeing no other questions from the committee, what is the will of the committee? Chairman Cantrell, you recognize for a motion.
I move do pass.
We have a motion and a second that Senate Bill 220 LC 490463S do pass. Is there discussion? Chairman Cantrell, you're recognized.
So as members probably remember, I'd like to propose the same amendment that we had on the previous version of this bill. It would take line 22, it We would take that number 15 and change it to 17. And then I assume Michael Walker's here from Ledge Council. He is online.
He is online.
Michael, could you just make the language the same as what we did in the amendment the time before? Or do I need to spell it out?
I'm happy to make the amendment. It does not immediately come to mind, Representative. You know what it is.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chairman Cantrell.
Basically, on line 31, after the comma, we would add a member from GMA, one representative from GMA, comma, one representative from ACCG, comma, and then the rest of this, the rest of the 31 and 32 would finish from there.
Okay, I've got that.
Mr. Walker, you have that language and are comfortable with that, those changes on lines 22 as well as 31?
Yes, sir. I'm just looking up at the title real quick to make sure there's no impact there in the first few lines, and it looks like we're good. So yes, sir, I am comfortable with that. And subject to any other amendments that you all consider, we'll make sure that's incorporated into a committee substitute.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Walker. So there is an amendment. The Cantrell amendment has been offered. Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the Cantrell amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of the Cantrell amendment, please say aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you, and the amendment is adopted. The question before the committee is now on Senate Bill 220 as amended by the committee. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
No.
Duly noted, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. And Senator, you did mention that Representative Gamble will carry this in the House. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Okay, members of the committee. Senator Gooch, if you want to join us. Senator Gooch is here to present Senate Bill 159. And once again, Senator, if you don't mind starting out, making sure we're all working on the same LC number, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, Chairman and committee members. You should have substitute to SB 159. It's LC number 393002S. Is that correct? All right, so this is one of those good bills that you can all get behind. It deals with four things: local control, it's good for the children, it's about less government, and it saves taxpayers money. So it's something that everyone should be for. It did get a unanimous vote in the Senate. It deals with the way we transport our children in Georgia. Georgia, in fact, is the only state that does not allow alternative forms of transportation for special needs children. And for the children under this code section we're going to be dealing with. This bill allows for local control to make the decision to use alternative forms of transportation for those special needs kids. The requirements would be set forth by the Department of Education. They would come up with minimum state requirements and standards around the alternative school vehicles, including the specifications of the vehicles, the inspection requirements, and the driver requirements. It defines those vehicles as a motor vehicle with the capacity of 8 persons or less, operated and marked for the transportation of school children to and from school activities. It also gives local school boards the authority to establish additional requirements. Full local control on how this program would be run would be decided by your local school boards. And it prohibits a school from calling an Uber or a Lyft type rideshare program for that purpose. We don't allow that in this bill. There were a few changes made in this substitute based on what passed the Senate. These changes were at the recommendations of the Department of Education, and I'll discuss those quickly. Section 2, we included language similar to Florida's law that further clarifies that the category of students that districts should use this form of transportation for would be for special needs and homeless children that fall under the McKinney-Vento Act. In section 3, we clarified in Title 40 that these vehicles are not school buses and are exempt from the school bus laws, but they can transport children in Title 40. We're just making sure that we have consistency in both sections of the law. Again, the Department of Education will come up with the separate standards and regs for the vehicles. But in Title 40, we want to clarify that these can be used to transport school children. The only difference in my bill versus HB 455 that y'all passed out earlier is that we prohibit the districts from using the rideshare companies such as Uber or Lyft. We want districts to work with transportation companies experienced in transporting our children and those with disabilities, and that's why we did that. Representative Barr will carry this bill in the House should you pass it today.
Thank you, Senator. And as Senator Gooch said, members of the committee, y'all remember Chairman Barr presenting a bill that we had a spirited debate about and ultimately passed out of this committee. So you've heard that this is very, very similar. Recognize Chairman Nix for a question. Even better. Representative Nguyen, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. My APS school transportation director supports this. I do have one question. You mentioned the provisions around the McKinney Act, and this would benefit kids with special needs and those who are facing homelessness. Would it also cover children who are just in transient situations? I think the example brought forth before was a student whose house burned down and had to be temporarily located to Henry County, and they were living there at the time, and APS had to send one school bus there every day to pick that particular student up.
Yes, ma'am, that is a very good question, and it would cover that provision.
Thank you. And I appreciate the exclusion of rideshare on that. I think that's a really good provision. Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Representative Wynn. Vice Chairman Irwin.
There we go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Gooch, just one quick question. And you began with this local control. So if a school system wants to continue transporting the way they currently are transporting children, they can do that.
They
correct?
sure can. Yes, sir. And let me just add, my parents were both school bus drivers, and for years they talked about the fact that they were transporting one or two children out of the county, sometimes 30 to 40 miles from the school district, to take one child over to another district, maybe over in White County from Lumpkin, and that 4 to 5 miles to a gallon for diesel. That became very expensive, and it's kind of a waste of taxpayers' money when there's a cheaper alternative. So this would be that alternative that local board would be able to deploy.
Great. And thank you for the local control decisions that can be made there with this bill.
That's right.
Anything else online? All right, there seems to be no other questions from the committee. Chairman Cantrell, you're recognized for a motion.
I move to pass.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Senate Bill 159, LC 393002 by substitute do pass. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Senator Gooch, who you mentioned Chairman Barr will carry this on the House side.
I believe he's teed up to take it back through the House.
That sounds good. Thank you for your time today,
Thank
Senator.
you all. Appreciate your support.
All right, members of the committee, we will turn to Senate Bill 66. Senator, if you'll join us at the podium, and as always, start out, please confirm our LC number that you're working off of and make sure we're on the same page.
Definitely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee. Good morning, almost afternoon. I'm working off LC 490423S. It's passed by the Senate.
Yes, sir. Please proceed, Senator.
Senate Bill 66, I'll bring you today. Basically, it's a bill that's merging the Innovation Fund Foundation and the Georgia Foundation for Public Education. And I have a couple folks here from the Georgia Foundation for Public Education if there's any questions about this bill while we're going through it. Just to give a little bit of background, and then I'll kind of get to the why we're doing this. The Georgia Foundation for Public Education was created in 2013, and a 501c3 arm was attached in 2019. It has a mission to support our public schools in a broad way by raising philanthropic money for grants for local school districts. The Innovation Fund Foundation was created in 2013 as a 501c3 to raise money and award grants to schools and partners for innovative programs that local school districts create. A 100% tax credit was created in 2017 that the Innovation Fund would manage, and that was created by former House Education Chairman Brooks Coleman a few years ago. And just so we're clear in terms of the tax credit itself, the tax credit is in existence, and basically all we're doing is wanting to shift it from Innovation Fund to the Georgia Foundation for Public Education. Over the last few years, it's been very clear to both foundations that they have very similar missions. They have partnered on grants, and considering the difficulty of recruiting board members, fundraising, in an already crowded education space in terms of raising money in the state, both organizations decided it would be best to merge to consolidate resources. The Georgia Foundation for Public Education already has a paid staff member. It's already grown, and we believe it's the better final owner of this. So basically, this bill would dissolve the Innovation Fund Foundation on January 1st of 22 and transfer ownership of the tax credit and the work that the Innovation Fund Foundation currently does to the Georgia Foundation for Public Education on that same date. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll answer any questions.
Sure. A couple very, very quick. I believe you can answer for me if you don't mind. I believe that this is simply a good government move where we are combining, I'm not going to call them duplicative services, but we're combining two like entities into one simple entity. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, Mr. Chairman.
Next, would you agree that this is a fiscally neutral bill?
Correct.
Next, you mentioned that the tax credit is not being expanded, changed. Again, we're just
We're not
combining entities.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We're not touching it whatsoever, just combining the two organizations into one.
And finally, just to confirm, you mentioned that the Innovation Fund, if you will, is the one that's being combined into the Georgia Public Education Foundation. Innovation is the key word here that I'm tracking. Grants for innovation would still be allowed under this new entity. Would you agree with that?
That's correct. And then one other thing, just in terms of, I know some folks have asked about the priority of some of the grants. And typically with those innovation grants, we look at the lowest performing 5% school districts in the state in terms of priority. So we can make investments and opportunities into those school districts to help them grow and succeed in local communities throughout the state of Georgia.
And I commend you for that. I think you would find this committee very favorably supports the addressing those lowest performing schools. Chairman Cantrell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Senator Anavatarte. I just wanted to say your name one time.
Perfecto.
So to be clear, this is private money going to public education.
That's correct.
So so we're mixing private money and public money for educational purposes.
No, we're raising private money or money from individual citizens who want to check the box on their tax return and send the money here. And the foundations in turn around and give those dollars to school entities, public school entities in local communities across the state.
Right. So the end result is that we're taking private money given privately to public entities, and we're mixing those two for educational purposes.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Well said, Chairman Cantrell. Representative Evans, is that you, number 9? Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill. And since we have some people here from the Foundation for Public Education, I would be interested to know what kind of grants have been given, just a little bit of information about the status of that and where it's gone.
Sure. Yeah,
Thank
we established a rural education fund several years ago. So last year we actually gave out $127,000 and 127 grants approximately to schools and school districts statewide, supporting any education need that the local school district deems that they have. It's based on data, and we collect outcomes so we can report back to not only our board, but also to the donors. Last year, because of COVID relief, we received At least $650,000 that went directly to supporting schools and school districts' technology needs. Again, we really try to look to get money to rural school districts, and we consider rural schools and school districts in counties of 35,000 or fewer residents. Of course, we also award money to metro counties, but we realize that they have usually more access to the same donors that we're going to. But that's just a few of the grants that we've given.
So it was a total of like 127,000 like in 2019 and about 650,000 in 2020.
We actually gave out $1.6 million last year and 110 grants. That was in 2020, and that was up from in previous calendar years about $400,000 and about 30 to 35 grants each year.
And are most of your donors corporations or are they individuals?
I would say the bigger dollar donors are going to be corporate and family foundations, and the bigger number of donors is individuals, but it's not typically the same, quantity of dollars that are coming to us.
Thank you very much, and I commend you on that 1.6 million in doling out.
Thank you.
Representative Maynor.
Thank you. I have two questions. And bills are written by lawyers, so this is probably why I don't understand it a little bit. I'm definitely in support of it, but in regards to, let's just say lines 22 through 26, it outlines, supporting educational excellence at Georgia Academy for the Blind, Georgia School for the Deaf, and Atlanta Area School of the Deaf. So with that being said, on lines 120 through 122, when you're talking about the lowest 5% of schools, are the funds going to those lowest 5% of the schools based on these disabilities? Or are they two separate things?
Representative Maynor, if I could, just, on those earlier lines that you mentioned, that is existing code and that exists already. So lines, anything in section 1 on page 2 is an existing law, and I believe, and the senator can jump in here as well, that we are simply pointing out as well that we're acknowledging that lowest 5%.
Correct.
I guess you would say standing or designation is recognized as a reason to give that grant. Senator, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Does that help, Representative Maynor?
So almost. So
Okay.
does the lowest 5% in order to get the grant, do the recipients or the schools need to have students with disabilities, or it's just related to
No, it's
performance?
just my understanding, I believe, is just it's 5% of the overall performance of the school district.
Okay. And then the second question, line 280 and 281, again, I'm in support of the bill. In no event shall the aggregate amount of tax credits allowed under this code exceed 5 million per tax year. What do you know? Do you have data on what was the highest aggregate amount that was donated last year? Like, did we get to 5 million?
So the IFF fund the tax credit has not been maxed out yet. We have not gotten close to the 5 million, but coming to the Georgia Foundation for Public Education, our board is already working on donors that could contribute to it and really working to max it out both this year and next year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Maynor. Representative Paris, do you have a question? Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
So there's a comment about the mixing the private and the public that I wanted to address. It seems a little bit inconsistent with some of the things that we've done on other bills. I think in the election bill, HB 531, we prohibit private money from going to election boards. So this is a little bit inconsistent, but
I think that he was referring to private donors being able to contribute to the fund here for educational
Right.
purposes that could then be doled out for public
Right,
grants.
and I think that that's the same thing with the election bill, though. It is that private donations can no longer be made to.
I understand and I respect your, but is there a question related to this?
No, I just
And-
wanted to point out the inconsistency.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Wade, online, you're recognized.
Thank you. Just two quick questions, all related. How many students were impacted by this? And how many schools received funds last year? Just so I'm aware. I don't know if you covered that.
It was 110 schools and or school districts that received the grants. And unfortunately, I don't have the number of exact students that were impacted by the schools and districts on hand. I do keep it tracked as well as all the demographics of the schools.
Thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you very much.
Chairman Wade and Chairman Cantrell, you're recognized.
I'm sorry, just one last question. I support the bill 100%. I didn't mean to in any way insinuate otherwise, but I'm going to combine all this into one question. Do the School Board Association, the Superintendent's Association, and the teachers groups support your bill?
So I'll answer it this way. So the Department of Education supports it. The Governor's Office of Student Achievement supports it. As a former local school board member myself from Paulding County, I've never heard any negative comments or anything otherwise from principals, superintendents, or school boards in Georgia. I can't stand here and speak for them here today, but I think I can safely assume that they support seeing support for their local schools being innovative and trying to grow and help their student populations all over this state.
Thank you.
One final question. Sorry, go ahead.
One more comment for Chairman
Please.
Wade. That data he requested, we'll get him some statistics and we'll send that to the committee.
I appreciate that very much. One final question online from Representative Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator. I do support this bill. I know our public schools are not being fully funded and they do need extra support. Just had a question, and I'm sorry if I missed this before. Are the funds unrestricted or are they tied to specific projects that the schools are doing?
So I can let Paige talk about the criteria, but there is criteria in terms of, I know for Innovation Fund Foundation, in terms of what we're sending over to the other foundation, there's some specific criteria in terms of what the schools can apply towards and how those grants are applied. I don't know, Paige, I'll let you kind of.
Yes, we have a grant application process where we ask several questions and we ask anything that the school is asking for funds for to provide data about why the funds would actually help move the needle in that area, as well as then we ask for outcome measurements afterwards to make sure that we're tracking the results and that they're getting the results that they say that they will get. Sometimes a donor such as Georgia Power has given to us before, they have specific outcomes that they want to see tracked. And so then we offer that grant and say, if you want to work in these areas, please apply. But we try to keep it as unrestricted as possible, really letting the local community decide what's best for their school and school district, as long as it's based on data that we can track.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chairman Cantrell, you're recognized for a motion.
Move to pass. Enthusiastically so.
We have a motion and a second that Senate Bill 66 LC 490423 by substitute do pass. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Senator, who will be carrying this on the House side?
Representative Matthew Gamble.
Well, we'll just keep stacking up. Representative Gamble, we
Please
appreciate
put him to
that.
work.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee members.
Finally, Senator Davenport. Senator Davenport is here to discuss Senate Bill 106 today with us. So if you could confirm our LC number that we're working on, and the floor is yours, Senator.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I'm very happy to bring forth to the committee. Thank you for having me. We'll be working off of SB 106/CSFA. And I think the original one was LC 490494S. And this particular bill relates to the multi-tier system of support prior to suspension or expulsion for certain students. And it is pre-K through third grade. For out-of-school suspensions for more than 5 consecutive days, cumulative days during the school year. And it actually defines wraparound services. I think a couple of years ago, we had one bill that passed the House and Senate and made law, but it did not give us a definition for these wraparound services. The multi-tiered system of support means a systemic continuous improvement framework in which database problem solving and decision-making is practical across all levels of the educational system for supporting students at multi-level of intervention. And then these wraparound services will provide students in instances, provide academic, social, or behavior support for students. And what happened is we amended this to state that they may have in the committee. And on the Senate floor, it was amended from we had it for 8th grade, but it was amended for pre-K through 3rd grade. And so now we should have SB 106/CSFA. Is that what you all
Yes,
have?
yes, we are working on the same LC number there. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've talked to several organizations, and I think we got it, after it's been amended a couple of times, I think we have it fixed. And I think Representative Howard had a bill a few years ago that dealt with that, too early to expel, House Bill 135.
Thank you very much. We do have a couple of questions. Representative Maynor.
Thank you. I love the bill. I love the idea of giving children chances. One concern is I don't like the idea of a preschool student. That means someone 4 or 5 years old actually being able to be expelled. So even though they went through this tiered program, I would like to offer an amendment if the committee so chooses, if we get that far, to say, even if the 4 or 5-year-old child goes through this tiered support program, that they still cannot be expelled or suspended unless, there's some other measures that are taken place. Because do you understand what I'm saying? 4 or 5 being expelled, that's a problem.
I do understand what you're saying, and what we've tried to do here is to make sure that they have resources and make sure they have services so they will not be expelled.
So the way this is written, and it's a question, let me pose it in a question. If a 4 or 5-year-old goes through this program and the behavior or whatever it is not solved, does that then mean they can still be expelled?
Yes.
And so,
I think this would probably have to be a separate bill, what you're advocating.
Or can there be an amendment? With me being a first-year legislator, I'm going to refer to Chairman Dubnick.
We'll stand by on the amendment. Let's get through some discussion first. I understand your concerns, Representative Maynor, but we may get some further questions that expound upon that. Chairman Nix.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Senator, thank you for bringing the bill. Representative Howard and I did carry that bill. The bill that we passed, I believe it was in 2017 or 2018, was House Bill 740 that actually passed.
18, yes. Yes.
And just to give some people a little bit of a fill-in, what we did at that particular point in time is we said, you can't expel these children. You've taken it a step further until you make sure that they can see properly, they can hear properly, and they can speak properly. Those were the things that were identified as we went through our our system that would probably cause a lot of the problems that they have, discipline problems. And to address the representative here about not being able to expel them, we had a lot of discussion on that. And what it came down to, sometimes it comes down to the parent. They have to accept some responsibility. And if this 4 or 5-year-old just cannot be controlled and the parent is not participating, if they have to go home and stay with the parent for a while, maybe the parent will get on board. So I would be opposed to that amendment for that reason. Sometimes you have to make a statement to get their attention. But I appreciate the bill. We've talked a lot about the wraparound services. If we can make sure that they can see, hear, and speak correctly, that goes a long way. And then adding those others on, I think, is good. But I appreciate this and think it adds well to what we've already done. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a lot of questions. We're going to work through those. Representative Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Nix, he and myself carried the bill back in 2018.
Okay.
And it sort of covers a lot of the things that you have in here. I think in one particular place, on line 47, your bill says local school systems or schools may make a multi-tier system of support. If you go back and look at the bill that we carried, we use the word shall. And I would like to propose an amendment to change that to shall and instead of may, where it wouldn't be in conflict in what we did, Representative Nix.
Representative Howard, if we've got quite a few more questions, and at the appropriate time, we'll discuss amendments if that's acceptable with you. Thank you, Representative. Next, Representative Carter online.
Hello, and thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I just had a question. Currently, can children currently at preschool be expelled? And is this bill trying to put some measures in place to reduce the opportunity? That's what I wanted to kind of get clarity.
I'm sorry, can you I couldn't hear you.
Okay, so
Would you repeat, Representative Carter?
Okay, I'm gonna pull over so I can put my hand on the phone.
Oh.
Again.
Please do so.
I am officially legally parked. Okay, so the question is, I understand putting the wraparound services, and I truly appreciate that. But the question, if this bill does not pass, can those students currently be expelled from school?
Well, the bill this is already in law, but
that's why I was bringing the point, because I'm saying, I think if I understood, they can be expelled, right? What you're trying to do is put something in place to reduce the opportunity for them to be expelled.
That is correct.
If I understand that correctly.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted clarity with that because I was listening. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Representative, and I appreciate you pulling over and letting us know you're legal there. Representative Wynn online.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to see my senator here presenting this bill that I do support. And I do want to also echo Representative Howard's concern about the shall versus may. It would be an amendment that I would be in support of. The one question I do have, Senator, is if we do put this into place, do we have the funding to adequately make sure that the students will be able to have access to some of these wraparound services?
Well, as you know, a lot of systems, counties already have these wraparound services. And although that's the question that came up, although the school system may not have money for this, the community has money. So these services, some of these services already exist. So the school system will call and get these services for the students.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for bringing this bill forward.
Thank you.
Representative Evans, you have patiently waited through all the lights. Do you still have a question?
Well, thank you, Chairman, and thank you for bringing this bill, Senator Davenport. You're also my senator too, so I appreciate that. I just was wondering, this doesn't address like what triggers this action. I mean, can you just explain one more time?
What triggers the behavior or
What triggers like the expulsion? Yeah, or I see. So this just applies starting on line 50. Is that right? Where they cannot be expelled or suspended from school for more than 5 consecutive days during a school year without receiving this system of support. Okay, I was just trying to understand what triggered this this action.
Yeah, well, it really needs to families and need these services. The students need these services. If they're given problems in the school, if they had some kind of intervention there, these wraparound services to help them and help the families. We just feel that it would be better for the student.
Right. And I mean, and I guess I would just say, I hope that that's provided before that happens. I guess that's my point, but maybe that's not in our laws right now. So.
Yeah, we would hope that these services, we would hope that these services will be provided and the school system, if they're available in their counties, if the small counties don't have these, there's some way that they can get some of these services to prevent all this. When you think about a preschooler, a first grader, given that much trouble to disrupt, I mean, something has to happen. My mother taught first grade for 38 years. It's just almost unreal for students this young to be that disruptive. You see where students might bring a gun or something, and that's in this bill too, when we have exceptions there. But for small students to disrupt, we need to have some services provided for these students and their parents so we can avoid some of this.
Thank you, Senator.
And I think some others.
We still have a couple more questions if you don't mind.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Vice Chairman Irwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Davenport, on line 51, was there any data used to determine 8th grade as your cutoff instead of 3rd grade?
To be honest with you, I wanted wraparound services for grades pre-K through 12, because I think that would solve a lot of problems. The committee has said that 8th grade, we could do that, but then there was an amendment when we got to the Senate floor to say pre-K through 3rd grade. So I think when legal counsel did that, I think that's the only thing is on there where it says 8th, it should be 3rd.
Senator, would you repeat that last
Yes.
statement, please, if you don't mind?
It should be 3rd grade.
Where are we talking about, line 51?
Yes, if we, '51.
So on lines 20 and on line 51, Senator,
Yes.
am I understanding correctly that currently in the LC version we have before us, 3rd is stricken and 8th is presented, and you're saying it should be the other way around?
It should be the other way around.
Thank you
That
very
was the
much
one
for
that
that.
I was.
Okay, thank you for that
Attorney
clarity.
Attorney Walker, he's still on the line. Their counsel, please.
Mr. Walker, are you with us?
Yes, I am here, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions. I do see where there does seem to be some, both 3rd and 8th grade are used. If it is the will of the committee, I would just make that consistent throughout, including in the title of the bill. So it sounds like, and I am looking at the actual floor amendment version of Senate Bill 106. I do see where 8th was changed to 3rd grade in the definition. at line 18, but it was not really changed anywhere else. So there is some inconsistency there that I think the bill would be benefited from some clarification and consistency.
Yeah, I see that as well, Mr. Walker. Thank you for that. Vice Chairman Irwin, did you have a follow-up question there?
Yes, Ken, I guess too, have we looked at any data on how many students that are suspended for more than 5 days that would fall into this program?
I did not get any data. I didn't get any data for it. I did talk to the Department of Education. Oh, you have yours.
So, Mr. Representative, we did, and I'll make specific comments in reference to it, but the Council on Black Health did a extensive analysis on all the questions, particularly as it relates to what's currently in practice, what the funding mechanisms are, and then what impact does it actually have on everyday experience in the classroom. So I can share that with you. I don't have the actual report with me here, but I'll be more than happy to share that with you.
And it is separated by grade level, so age of the child. You could do that, because obviously that would dictate a lot to me to know the extent of this and the impact that it positively could have. If we're talking about one student, it'd be different than if we're talking about 15,000 students.
Well, the challenge with that is this currently, as it's stated in 20-2-742 in the current code, it's already there. It's something that's already in practice. And so to be able to limit this extension of that statute to only limit it to K-3 would change what's already in practice. So that's the only urge that I would ask for us to consider, because it's already being done.
Okay, so the understanding then, Senator Davenport, I'm assuming is that we would change the K-8 to K or pre-K-3, third.
Yeah, let me.
That's where I'm confused.
So
All right,
on the Senate floor, they changed it from pre-K through 8th grade.
Yes.
And they changed it to pre-K through 3rd because they wanted to do some kind of analysis as to a pilot program, if you will.
Okay.
But the consideration that we're recommending is to change it back to pre-K through 8th grade because that was already being done.
All right. And we've still got, we're going to change directions here for a minute. I think we've got almost every member of the committee who has asked questions, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more still have questions. If it would be pleasing to the senator, I'd like to just hold on this for now and ask that the members of the committee who have, I mean, we've already heard of at least 2 amendments prospectively being proposed. Senator, I'd like to ask you to work with members of the committee offline. Again, I think there are some concerns. I'd like to see I am, as Representative Nguyen knows, I am no lawyer, never played one on TV, don't plan to be one. But I know that there may be a couple of inconsistencies in language here that are not of your doing nor your fault. So please don't think that I'm putting that there. I am very intrigued by your bill and would like to see maybe some more work done on that. If I can also task the members of the committee, if you have, as I've said, and Chairman Cantrell's heard this 100 times, if you have a way to make it better, input Chairman Nix or Representative Howard. If there's past experience, I'd ask you to throw all the spaghetti against the wall that you can with our senator here and work on this bill. And Senator, if that'd be pleasing with you, I'd be happy to bring an updated version back before the committee in very short order in the near future. Would that be okay with you?
That would be fine. We just had the bill pre-K through 12 in the committee. We had to change that, and we did it down to 8th grade. Then it was further down to pre-K through 3rd, and we changed it shall. No, it was just 8th grade. Then we changed the word from shall to may, and not limited to, but such as. But when we got on the Senate floor, there was an amendment, and it went from change from 8th grade back to 3rd grade. I did not realize until that's what was adopted.
Sure. No, understood. And again, I'm I'm with you, and I think that you've seen the willingness of this committee you've heard multiple members say that they're friendly to this, and I just want us to get the right version. And I try not to sit here in this chair and be a dictator and tell you what the bill needs to say. I appreciate very much the will of the committee and their input. So I think this is at this point, we'll leave here in a moment, but please, Senator, hear me say that I asked for you to work with the committee and members of the committee. I also asked for you to reach out to the senator. And so Representative Howard, did you have something you wanted to add there?
I'd just like to say, I mean, it is a very good bill. Sort of begins to complement what we did a couple of years ago with the wraparound services. We commend you, Senator Davenport, for bringing this bill, and I'll be happy to work with you, and I'm sure Representative Nixon and other members.
One last thing, Senator, if you don't mind, the committee, I'm getting a couple of questions. Who will be carrying this on the House side? Members of the committee would like to include that House member as well, if that has been determined.
Okay, so it hasn't been determined, but since you all worked on it, I get with you.
Okay.
It sounds like, to those representatives asking that question, it sounds like it will prospectively be someone from this committee.
It will be Representative Howe and probably Representative Nixon. One of them be carrying.
Thank you, Senator. Is there anything else from the committee for the good of the order? Hearing none, thank you so much for being here today, and this meeting stands adjourned.